feel like Peyz has earned the ban of that. Game 4 Caitlyn performance against Thunder Talk was fantastic.
It was nasty. If you don't know the format, it is fearless. That means anything that's picked in the series cannot be played yet again. We will also have that coin flip side select for game number 1, but a 1v1 side select for game number 5 if we do end up getting 2 silver scrapes. Bans are said and done. The Rumble, the Renekton also banned. Top lane focus. We get the Jace first pick. This was also first pick at the BLG series the other night, and you know, we'll see how that works out this time around.
Yeah, I mean, the Jace pick, it's so damn strong, and especially with JDG, gotta imagine that Scout, he's willing to play this one as well. So a flex pick for JDG going throughout this draft, which leads me to think, you know, do we see an AP jungle and Cassante here? Would it be a true option if you want to take away both the Jace and the Cassante? Can play the Cassante into the Ambessa, all right. Of course, Ambessa flexible as well for anyone's legend, but expect to see that one in the top side. I know that you highlighted the Nidalee in particular, Mazel. It is Shun's best champion, and with that Jace, already fits pretty well, so that's going to be picked up here for JDG.
Gauntlet is thrown. Shun wanting to see if he can take a little bit of control of the jungle meta here and take the momentum, at least, forward against Tarzan. Tarzan is a tricky one, though. He's very good at reading how to play against other junglers. Want to see what his choices are going to be, but I think the thing that terrifies me the most is anytime I see an LPL team insta-lock things. And I'm just saying that Ambessa Leona was instantly locked for AL, so they know exactly what they want to go for. Getting a little bit more poke, a little bit more range, though, for JDG as they go for the Corki.
Yeah, that said, Ryze is going to be picked up here by Shanks. I think the hope is that the Corki Nidalee can't kill you if it ends up being the Corki mid, and you have a way to at least play to pick Nidalee later on. Not to mention that you can't really be one-shot by what's showing by like as Ryze versus JDG. So I think those are at least the few ideas as to why we see that Ryze come out so soon, as it does feel like it's a pick that's really been climbing in priority throughout the tournament. But I think outside of Doinby series, the first time we've seen it be picked up in a game 1.
Yeah, I'm here for it. Because give me some Ryze gameplay in 2025. I don't think anybody had that on their bucket list for this one with all the new champs we have. Nowadays, going to be a little bit more focused towards the jungle for JDG in the second phase. It was a lot of that supportal focus, but also the top lane continuing at least a little bit for that Poppy and the Renata Glass. We'll see the Viego band as well.
I'd maybe like a Kaisa ban here from JDG. Okay. I think it's a good champ for Hope. And I do think that they don't need damage right now, but like Kaisa interacts pretty well with what's showing. As they're actually going to hold off on
Vi
AD.
is really good here.
Just going to pick up the Vi, so a lot of point, click, and go buttons into that Nidalee, into the Corki. JDG, got to imagine they can take some more peel to at least try and get anyone's legends off, but very heavily showing dive here for AL.
Yeah, and maybe that's what JDG are trying to play towards as well with the poke damage that they have. Try to play away from that dive, but they're going to need some kind of front line, some kind of something to block off a lot of this dive. The Cassante will do good work in that. That does mean the Jace is going to be a little bit flexible here, and we'll see what they want to grab to support this Corki if they are going to bring that one bot lane.
I think the Alistar a bit better. Rel is something that, I mean, obviously it's going to be really high up in priority throughout the latter games, but I think that Alistar, you have like opportunities to really throw Vi and Ambessa, get them out. And also it's harder to blind later on. Yeah, so I do like the Alistar pickup. I did tease the Cassante or being able to go top or mid here. I assume it's going to be Scout piloting the Jace, just knowing Scout. But yeah, a few of these picks that we teased, it is actually to be the Kaisa to go over the top. So full dive showing from anyone's legend, and I think that's really got to be the game plan. Can they get on Corki? Can they get on Jace early on? Take them out of the fights. Nidalee going to be a good target as well. And also, try and use the Ryze and Ambessa to play out 3 lanes. Meanwhile, for JDG, really strong poke identity showing. Going to be important that they are able to get some sort of lead and get to objectives first to take away health bars from anyone's legend, because I don't think they want to fight them on even footing.
It feels like JDG have said, let's see if we have the mechanics, see if we're warmed up to handle this. They are a lot more chaotic. They have a lot more different ways they can play, but also some ways that it can go badly. I mean, AL's comp is just perfect on paper. Like, if you had one idea, it's dive, you pick tools to perfectly execute that, And I think they have a lot easier of a win condition.
Yeah, the real question is, can their lanes be good enough to get there? Because the Jace and Cassante being played here in this early game going to be quite strong.
Yeah.
So we'll see if they can play those picks well enough to make sure that, especially that Jace, if he gets a lead, can really push around the Rise. That could be a very big difference maker. As Rise falling behind, you're really just there for the Empowered Rune Prison. So I think for me, a lot of eyes on mid early. Your ability to play through and around Rise as the Vi too can be really big. And that's how we can expect AL to try and unlock the map. Outside of that, bot priority should be in favor of JDG. And we'll see if they can use any sort of lane priority they have to help Shun invade.
It's a lot going into this game at number 1. AL's hopes of a first ever finals. JDG's hopes at redemption. Hope is just a player in the game as well. We're in game number 1 for this Fearless Best of 5 upper bracket finals between AL and JDG. Let's hear those gyos. JDG's got a little bit more crowd.
I was
just
about
gonna
to say. Sounds like the Legacy org with the super teams got a little bit more behind it in this one. Shanks opting to not go for the Ghost. We have seen some of our Rises, including Scout, go for the Combat Summoner, as the Realm Warp is somewhat acts like a TP. Not going to be the call, though, for Shanks. Besides that, everything pretty standard. I do think as this game goes on, I'm curious to see if the Rise and Bessa can move the Cassante or the Jace. I think that could really have an impact on how this game moves forward, as we do have to pause, because it looks like we have a split map scenario being proposed by JDG, who want the lane swap.
So is Glacial Augment the actual usual for the Kael? Oh god, this is not good.
No, it's not, but,
I'm very curious. Yeah, I guess it is. We'll see if that comes.
I mean, this is tricky. Tarzan. He's very much delayed from this. Alwa's getting a lot of work done for Shun, who has already picked up the red buff and can move freely throughout the enemy jungle. So Kael gonna at least come and keep Alba off, but Tarzan started Q, started the Raptors. He's very far behind the jungle clear.
This is bringing me back to Ignar days. I don't know. We're getting the Leota 1v1 early on, but you do have to think about the map state. You have to think about the seriousness that this situation presents. It is going to be a completely split map right now with Tarzan a little bit slower on that clear.
It looks like we have no one going towards the top lane. Flandre did take level 2 off the mid lane XP, but no one's going to go top or transition, as we have Shun maybe looking at Shanks. You can see Shanks done a nice job of keeping Scout low.
To get the spear off on Shanks, he's going to go forward, rip at him with those Cougar Claws, actually sidestep a little bit of that. One more spear would do it. Shanks going to go with a little bit of a move and does end up getting away, but that'll be early pressure on the mid lane from JDG.
All right, so as we have the TP burned up top, that is going to be Flandre securing an experience advantage over Awa, but will be down TP in the top side. Curious if and when Peyz actually makes the swap back, as Peyz is currently getting access to solo gold and XP. Not bad for the Corki, but if you get the Ambessa like far enough ahead of the Cassante, it can be a problem for JDG moving forward, as Ambessa champion that scales off the resource that she has access to. But I mean, we've seen what happens when you can get ahead on this champion. Just the amount of damage and mobility you have in the kit can be very oppressive and difficult to deal with.
I mean, we've seen it literally displayed in front of us time and time again. You're squishy.
Yeah.
You do not get to have fun. But also, I got to give props to Flandre. I think that's where he's really come alive, is his target selection and team fights. It's always been, a little bit cerebral with him. But trying to find the angles with a lot of the meta styles that top laners bring this time around, like with the Ambessas, with the Cassantes, he is an expert at it.
Yeah, currently seeing Shun pilot the Nidalee. Expert as the expert, as always. He's going to try and get into the top side of Tarzan's jungle, but not able to get any of the respawn camps. So Tarzan should be able to clean up most of that jungle, and actually the first clear ends up being pretty even in the end, as the jungler is just kind of handshaking everything. So even despite the delay, it really only led to a little bit of pressure mid, which Shanks has, gone back and TP'd. Scout does have a TP advantage there. Might be significant for Grubs, but only thing that we might see come of all the early skirmishing that we saw in the early jungle lead that Shun had on the Nidalee.
And I think the reason why we're seeing a little bit of slow start to this, I mean, not only have JDG been a little bit slow starts to their series, but both these teams looking at fights as we look at top lane, talk about getting kicked off. That was huge for missing, and Peyz able to follow up with a ton of damage. But both these two teams are extreme team fighting teams, so a lot of time we will see them buy time to get to those moments, to get to those 2-3 item spikes.
That's something that we've seen kind of save JDG a couple times with how big Peyz has been in a few of the later fights. At the moment,
I think Flandre is just cooked. He goes under turret, missing just wonderfully. Tanks that turret, and JDG get first blood.
It's big. They got Kael back in base, was stuck at level 2. Still going to be there, just about to ding 3. But while he was missing to get Flandre like that under the turret, he was the one that had a little bit of a lead against Awa, but the Kaisa, they put Hope bot in the solo gold, solo XP experience. Can be really nice for Kaisa if you get accelerated. As that champion, you do need levels as well to ding the ability Evolve thresholds. So I think that the trade of where AL is prioritizing their golden experience definitely had an impact on that top lane matchup there, as Flandre wasn't able to get any bonus help. His help was already forced in base by missing, and he ends up going down. But a small lead on to Hope, at least in experience. We'll have to see if that ends up turning into anything for anyone's legend later on.
We get a grub start from the full map movement of anyone's legend here. Yeah. Everybody is up on this top side. They did leave Allah down there to his own devices, but will secure them the first 3 grubs here. So that's a nice stacking advantage for them. And they're just going to move Hope and Kael up top.
A lot invested, though, because Allah was able to get access to a plate and at least kill off a couple ways of golden XP. So you can see Flandre pretty far behind in that matchup now. Just looking at both the top laners, still pretty close in experience, but going to be far behind, especially if K'Sante is able to reset again in the gold category.
This map is insane.
Yeah, it's definitely been a little bit of a shift in terms of where we're used to having the gold experience and resources, but that has been the metagame and some of the interest of the swaps in this split. And I've been kind of curious to see how teams played out. I mean, I do think that funneling Kaisa is overall a very strong strategy. We've seen 3-item Kaisa be a win con in a lot of games and a lot of drafts. So again, anyone's legends putting a big focus to make sure that Hope is accelerated early on through these swaps, and we'll see if Hope can pay it back later.
When we're looking at team fights, I think Hope is an excellent team fighter, especially on the Kaiser can find those angles with this full dive composition. We will have a dragon still on the table. There were some pings coming that way. Shun will be in that vicinity with Tarzan getting reset now, but you wonder if any skirmishing is really going to come alive at this first dragon here, because both teams seemingly very okay with the state of games. I will just point out, though, I do worry about the Nidalee not having a very proactive start. We'll see how much influence the Nidalee can have if there isn't that gold sink into it.
Yeah, you can really get trapped by an empowered rune prison here and lockdown.
Uh-oh.
Definitely what anyone's legend is going to look to do against Nidalee, who is a pretty squishy target, even with the Leandre's rush. But at the moment, you can't see Flandre after what happened in the top side of the map. Again, he is down in resources, so nice job here by Allah to make sure to trap Flandre under his turret. Very much winning this part of the matchup, and will be interesting actually to track as time goes on what happens to the top lane pool, because a lot of big champions for Flandre taken off the board. He was very early to the Ambessa, very early adopter to the tank chase. He was the first one playing it, so like these 3 big power pick top lane champions all off the board in this game 1 might be quite interesting as the series goes on.
Yeah, I think it might be part of the strategy from JDG. Use that flexibility and take away some of those pivotal pieces that will be available in the later games. So nothing going to come of that first dragon just yet. The map state is looking a little bit more rambunctious, with Shun actually looking for an angle here after he stopped his reset. But you do wonder, though, with a lot of the stresses and talking about kind of the first option for AL to get into the grand finals with JDG's resurgence here, I think Allah deserves a lot of praise. in the way that he's been able to bring this team together in a lot of ways. And the fact that it's off the back of some tough performances, when we look back at EDG, things like that, it's really fun to see. Now Shanks gonna get out, but Ala deserving some of that respect from Flandre himself.
No, Ala's been fantastic to start off this season. I think it's a big part of the reason why, you know, we've seen JDG have their own struggles. Most of it has been Shunin missing, not syncing up for us. But with a team that has been relatively inconsistent, it's wild to see, you know, the top laner and the long lane playing solo, the one who has to experience all the 1v2s, the lane swaps, the one that really has been the consistent performer for this team. So definitely a good sign for JDG in the early split, and something they're hoping continues as the season moves on.
And it's funny, after all these years of them following each other to different teams, this is the first year we finally got the full team swap. You just swapped AL for JDG. It's fine. We finally get that after all these years.
Yeah, Flandre was finally like, you know what? Time to see what's been working for you this entire time.
Reverse it.
He also used the max system for that finding, you know?
True. All right, we have the Rift Herald coming up. JDG do not want to give this over, obviously, so they will just be first and foremost to the point. They're going to take it, and no contest coming out from AL. So, very reserved game number one. Typically, I think in the LPL, we'll see very rambunctious, very hot and heavy game number ones that will cool down as the games go on. Does he get the one? No, he's too late in there. JDG going to find it. Okay, Solar Flare goes out. Shouldn't going to flash away from that one, just in case.
The big difference in the scoreboard right now, when we saw anyone's legend commit hard for the 3 grubs, JDG were able to trade out. They got Awa some free time in the bot lane, some golden experience. This time around, anyone's legends went for the contest, were late to the objective, got nothing out of it besides an Italy flash, and weren't able to trade anything across the map. So I really feel like that's the difference we see in the scoreboard right now, with a lot of that being on the Awa in the top side, right? As he was left to his lonesome bot when those first 3 grubs were taken for AL.
And it's funny that he is going to be probably one of the most impactful people in this team, especially with the Cassante. With all the memes disregarded, he has the ability to make AL's carries life's hell. We'll see if he can find those angles. I think it's going to be the duality of these 2 top laners, is who can find the better flangle. And Flandre maybe a little bit favored in that one as Dragon started up by AL.
Something that has been nice for JDG, at least some of the games where they've looked stronger, it has been when their solo laners have been self-sufficient. And it feels like with this game being a bit quieter, it really has been a big focus for them with Scout only being a little bit further behind the Rise. I think that's an acceptable margin given that matchup. But especially the top lane with Awa being up, dropping those first grubs to make sure that he was set up for success.
TP. They're bringing pressure. They got missing over here as well. They want to punish Flandre. Flandre realizes something is going on here. He's going to use his mobility to get out of there.
This has been something we've seen out of JDG again quite a bit, making sure those solo lanes are set up for success, and it has led to some of the better looks. So, again, JDG, it kept things quiet, but doesn't mean it's been bad by any means. TP. Meanwhile, though, I think things are about to get busy.
There's no TP back. There's the immediate public execution going on to missing. He's trying to find the angle on the big cow, but unfortunately, he's got that unbreakable will, and he will be just fine.
No wall for Flandre if they really want to think about a dive in the top side. Becomes a little bit more of an option, but doesn't seem to be the case at the moment. As honestly, with things being quiet, I do think that the person that's going to scale the hardest in this game, it will be Hope. I will say that later on, it's going to be a little bit of a science experiment to see who has scaling advantage as a whole. I think I'm going to give the edge to anyone's legend. Just because I think a big thing is Ambessa and Rise. When you put points in their ultimate, they get a lot of power between Ambessa gaining the Omnivamp and the raw stats. Then, of course, Rise's overload percentage going up. So I think that like 11 and 16 are actually pretty big milestones for anyone's legend as a comp.
Okay.
And if they can, I guess, continue to keep the game like this, I do think JDG is favored at the moment, but they shouldn't be favored if this game goes late. I do think that's going to be AL, with just how much easier the comp is to play and some of the big scaling aspects that they have, especially just looking at the Kaisa.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were talking about in the draft. Like, the execution threshold is definitely a little bit higher for JDG, but they need to be a little bit proactive. I feel like they need to at least have some resources to work with Even though you have the Corki, even though you have the Cassante, things like that, like this, the damage needs to be there throughout the game, not just at the end game, because AL, I think, will have your number there. We are on first items, though. Everybody's starting to make their way there. We did have that Black Cleaver completed first item for Tarzan. We also have Shanks going for that scaling build as well.
Yeah, we have seen Tarzan at a few of the VODs do this. Of course, whatever solo lane he ends up attacking, likely to have some armor in their build. I know Scout doesn't have any right now, but we'll see if Jace gets some a little bit later on, especially with the tank chases that we've been seeing. We'll save Flandre from going Cleaver. So he has the access to get... he can get Shojin second, which actually I think matters a bit on the end. His item is very good, but at the moment,
Speaking
nothing...
of Flandre,
yeah.
Real quick, does he get mad when he sees people build Jace not the way he would build it, do you think? You think he just has like a little
the build got so nerfed, you know.
It did.
It's a different patch. It's a different time. I think it's still appropriate from Scout. Shojin's definitely a very, very strong item. Yeah,
I mean, they need the
Shojin's
damage.
A very strong item.
They went with this poke composition. They went with something where you really need to, when you're approaching objectives, when you're looking at these moments of big contest between the 5v5s, you need to be getting damage down preemptively. And as we see Herald coming up very shortly, I think we'll see some setup for that now.
We are seeing, though, how well Ryze is able to respond to this. And, again, Ryze, he's gated by range in terms of strength as champion, but it doesn't mean that he's weak later on. Those Qs after he hits 16, they do a lot of damage, especially if they're able to bounce through a team. And we see Scout do a lot of work with that in JDG's series against Thundertalk when he put together that really strong Ryze game. So see if Shanks has a similar game in him, as Scout went crazy in terms of presenting different angles to Thundertalk and really throwing them off their game. And when Ryze is played at the highest level to the maximum degree, that's really where we see the creativity shine with those realm warp angles, and what you're able to do could be a big help in making sure that this Anyone's Legend comp that really has to dogpile with JDG can find a good start to these fights.
And I know we talked a little bit about, okay, JDG going for the all-in onto Ala. They get the public execution, they get the lockdown. He's getting everything thrown his way, and Ala gonna flash with it all out, and he is out of there. They're gonna realm warp. They do not want to let him get away. He's gonna fight them under turret. He's gonna go with it. He wants to take the fight. Ala is in a 1v3, handling his own. Finally knocked down by Flandre himself, and they'll look to take the turret too.
Yeah, some nice moves by Flandre to get out of the Q3 and not be trapped under the turret. Of course, JDG looking to trade out. A lot of resources sent bot will lead to a Rift Herald secured by Shun and a top outer secured by Scout. Meanwhile, Dragon was not started by Anyone's Legends, so still a chance to contest for JDG. Oh, top inner barely stood standing, too.
It's so close. Yeah, it was so close.
I will say, the fact that doesn't fall and Anyone's Legends now able to get this Dragon uncontested, a little bit not worth. There was a chance that if Scout would have based on time, you had the Cassante spawning to actually contest this Dragon. Well, let's take another look at the replay. Yeah, again, just I was too far up. Tarzan was on this side of the map. TP committed by Shanks, and despite Ava's best efforts to get out, it's not like he played it poorly on the Cassante. Just couldn't be that far up with the Ryze rotating down.
You're looking live, and Scout's about half health, so is Shanks. So definitely getting a little bit hot and heavy now. We were talking about that earlier, at least. But still, it is going to be ships in the night so far. The way Tarzan is the kind of pivotal engage point for his team with Kael. They have to be on screen if you want to see AL be proactive. Now JDG, speaking of proactivity, going to take the turret here, maybe go for the play, and that's the flash out of Kael.
We'll say off-screen, Scout dropped his flash too, so that's a target that we can now look at.
Here it is.
If you are Anyone's Legends. Just going to get Ryze comboed.
Yeah,
Tarzan was on the way. That's what got the flash.
Oh, that was a really good flash, actually. You know, if there's going to be a flash, I'd like to see it go down like that. Now we're seeing pressure in mid lane. Rift Herald had been summoned. Turret is forfeit by AL. They are constantly losing that pressure. They're going to get another charge into this one's ballsy from missing, but he does get the damage off and get out. They are using this poke.
To push. This is a dangerous fight for AL. That's exactly what JDG wants.
Oh,
they got him low.
The public execution right onto Peyz. They didn't get him, though. Now cease and desist back on a scout. They don't have the damage, but they do. Now AL trying to take him down one by one. Ala can't do anything. Hope is free hitting in the side lane. Now Shun is trying to get out with the Realm Warp. That's going to bring everybody, and that's right on. Missing.
No.
Oh, my God. AL still somehow survive, even with the bouncy castle not set up for them. And Hope, of all people, is the last one standing, as that is huge for AL.
Hope was the one chunked at the start of the fight, but he got to play out this entire fight untouched as AL took the engage despite Hope being low, and JDG did not deal with it well in the back half.
That's actually insane. I mean, the fact that Hope still played so aggressively there, this is what happens when you go into a poke comp. They just can't deal with it.
Flandre gets a really big engage in, but yeah, look at Hope's in the back line. Peyz flashed out. He wasn't able to hit him. If Peyz flashed to the side, it's a maybe. And again, Awa's not on him. Scout was the first one to fall. Shun goes in. Good flash away by Flandre and the reaction. And then this is where it looked a little bit hairy.
This was doomed.
Okay, because he realm worked on top of an Alistar, so that pull looked good, but Peyz was not able to take down Flandre. Probably the member that he had to hit because he was going down for sure. Did save his flash. I think that's the right call for Peyz, who did play that fight out all right, but Hope was the one who, again, he was chunked at the start of the fight, and no one from JDG were able to touch him throughout the fight. So really, like, that advantage that they had went to the wayside entirely, just given how the fight played out. And Anyone's Legend, great take from them, and a really well-played fight by Hope. Yeah, he was able to play that far up. He wasn't touched, so well done.
And this is the guy for Anyone's Legend. This has been the duo transplanted over from WE with him and Shanks. And we talked about it so often, these two guys being a pivotal carry position for this team. They're both sitting at 2-0-3. They're both on very strong scaling champions. And Hope is already showing that his mechanics are on fire. AL are looking good in game one. That's where you always have to be wary. JDG, they're great team fighting teams, and they love to take a little bit of time to get up into the game.
I didn't love that take from them either, because look at the inventories of JDG. The Miramana just evolved for Scout, and you're about to have it evolve for Peyz too. So if they waited another minute or two, they could have had a fight where they were a lot stronger off the bat. Instead, as you highlighted, Mazel, it's Hope the one that's accelerated. And that's on the Kaisa, where 3-item Kaisa can very much be a win con in some games. The fact that Hope is almost there and will be there as this next dragon spawns, hopefully, if you're Anyone's Legend, that could be very difficult for JDG. So for me, a lot of eyes on Hope, given that he's down Flash. So the person that JDG, you gotta believe, has to target in this next fight, as well as Hope just being fed.
And that's the thing. Again, going back to the trap card, like, you are not making your life easy when you need to get all of this poke down before a fight even starts, right? And you see a situation like that where AL realize we have the advantage. Let's just push into their face. And it's so difficult to deal with that with the JDG composition. Now, they have been keeping steadily up in pace with AL, and now missing going forward gets knocked from Tarzan, actually. Yeah, that was huge from Tarzan. Now missing, almost dies. Scout gonna come over. Here's coming that poke that we were talking about, but none of it connects. And now JDG running for the hills. AL were maybe thinking about it, but didn't do it. Now the Atacon is up on top side. Dragon is up on bot side. AL are still focused around getting some vision in this river pit, as JDG still in area, at least moving up as well.
If they get him to walk in through topside, there might be a trap that Anyone's Legend's looking to pop as Tarzan. He was spotted
he's looking
here.
For it. Yeah. The hunter has been turned into the prey, and vice versa. As AL will just back away, and they won't end up going for that. And I'm sure we're going to get a transition across the rest of the map to get that dragon set up, as tower actually falls to the Winions in mid lane. So tier 2 down.
Kael did take a reset, so he's going to have access to some more wards. That said, Missing's done a nice job of, and he had the reset too, being a little bit chunked. Done a nice job of keeping everything up for him. I think AL is just trying, they don't want to push into JDG's visions. They're trying to pull him around and get him to check a brush they don't want to check. That's where AL can really spring the trap and try and get a fight that they want on their terms.
We saw the Miramanas completed for both Scout and Peyz, so they did get an uptick in their second item spike. You'd love to see that, but is it going to be enough when Shanks and Hope are circling that 3-item spike as well? as we see the back being initiated by multiple members of JDG. Dragon is still there. See if they want to stop this one. Okay, Allah does get his backstop, so this should initiate AL to be very much more aggressive here.
See if they want to take the Dragon first. As, again, Shanks is really close to 16. That's a big damage bump on the rise. They can get Shanks that. He's probably 2 or 3 waves away.
Okay.
So not going to be the case before the Dragon. And we have the trap coming in. Scout not spotted yet.
They see Tarzan now. They're going to go for the fight onto him in the pit. Now the Solar Flare going a little bit wide. The all-out on Tarzan. He has to try to get away. He does, as now he had that vault breaker to get over the wall. But here comes JDG. They're losing bodies, but look at this AoE. Oh, the public execution. Flandre gets the better of his partner in the lane. And now Scout is left to the Wolves. Those hungry, hungry, legendary Wolves.
It just feels like JDG can't find the fight against anyone's legend. The poke isn't connecting, and I gotta give a lot of credit to Tarzan and Flandre. They're being really slippery as a front line, and it feels like that's where we're aiming a lot of the poke. It's onto the Ambessa, onto the Vi, who can actually dodge and get out of this. As Shun's trying to get a little bit feisty and deny soul point. He's got the help of Peyz, too.
Hope sees Peyz! Oh my god, that was so close. The Realm Warp, they're not gonna go for it. I thought maybe they want to continue it. It's gonna be the Dragon. It's gonna be soul point for anyone's legend.
It's going to be Nasher's Tooth, too, likely secured for Hope. And for me, a lot of the hopes that JDG look to be going to the wayside, as they don't have the ability to pressure Hope before the fight if this poke isn't connecting. Take a look at the start of this one. Again, Hope's pretty much at full HP. And Tarzan, yes, he gets flicked over the wall, but he's playing the Vi. And he has a great escape, right? The flash, the Q over. Missing then ends up being stuck in the pit. Yes, Tarzan's ult's not ideal, but he lived throughout this, and no one's touching Hope. And then Hope in the back half just gets to take a free fight. Great public execution out of the Cassante from Flandre. Help take down Awa. And again, Hope's untouched. Like, Peyz and Shun were never able to pressure the Kaisa, given how the fight went for JDG. And that's a great job by the AL frontline to, you know, buy space for Hope, make sure that he can go in. But these fights have been all too easy for the Kaisa. And if you weren't pressuring Kaisa with all this poke, then Kaisa's just going to shred you in the back half. And that is exactly what Hope's doing.
Love to see it for Hope. All those stories, all those times ago on the JDG roster we already talked about. But honestly, I'm more interested in that history on WE, the lackluster moments, even that undefeated streak that that WE team had when Hope and Shanks were there. And unfortunately didn't end up in any glitz and glamour for him, but now seemingly found his mark on anyone's legend, is on the verge of bringing them to a grand finals with a series win here today. Now, it is going to be JDG moving in to clear out some of this vision. We're getting a little bit of a lull here, but AL, I think they're perfectly fine with that. Again, their composition is seemingly just stronger in these moments, and they have this lead right now.
Yeah, I think the biggest concern would be maybe later on that the Corki just starts popping people. Because, like, if you get Corki to, 3, 4, 5 items, you don't have true frontline for anyone's legends outside the Leona. So maybe you're able to, one-tap someone as the Corki, but it still looks like a really tough setup. And Rise
just goes straight. Oh my god, the Void Seeker also hit. But Tarzan, he's tanking turret. Tarzan's down. This is Zealous
Shanks
from AL. They're under turret. They fall. This was what JDG were waiting for. The slip and the fall from Grace from AL. JDG, they're pouncing right behind them. They take down 2. And the thing is, about a death like that in the state of League of Legends now, there are so many game-ending objectives up on the table. You got Baron, you got Atacon. It's the Baron that JDG choose.
This felt like an unforced error from Tarzan and anyone's legend. Why need to make that happen? You can bait. You had control over the Baron. Now it's just going to be Hope trying to poke. He has the W evolved. It keeps on connecting.
I mean, Hope is massive here. Hope is looking for Scout. Void Seeker going to connect onto Allah. Look at Hope. He is destroying them here. The Baron goes over to Shun as they do end up getting that one. As now JDG will make their escape. Hope almost went Super Saiyan right there.
Yeah, I think that where he went, the top side of the fight to focus Scout, Scout did a nice job at getting out of that, and Hope just ended up being stuck. And didn't have the numbers to keep on pushing forward, and didn't have the strength with himself, or he felt like he could go forward. So I think that he overplayed his hand a little bit to the top side, but first, it was anyone's legends and Tarzan overplaying their own hand. what happened here? They spotted Cassante going around. And then they go on to Peyz.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, they've got him, but Tarzan's way too far in.
Everybody is there.
And the port from Shanks, too. He just gets headbutted back from missing, who says, thank you very much. And that's 2 free kills. You can't make that mistake.
That is massive, and these are the kinds of moments that give JDG such an in back into the game as they start up the Atacon. This is the momentum breaker. We've seen teams across the LPL completely manhandle games after they get the Atacon. JDG were threatening it over AL, but it's down for that fight now. They have about 8,000 health on it. It's getting lower. Yeah. Tarzan going to come across now.
We've seen the subjective manhandle teams, too. It's down to 4K.
It is. I don't know, though. Tarzan trying to get in the pit. He can't. It's going to be taken by JDG. Now they have those GAs. They can go recklessly into the night. As Hope coming over. It's the public execution as well. They will pop some of these GAs. Are they getting popped, though, back? They will not. Hope is getting more money. Even if it's 200 gold at a time, he will take those. 7,000 damage done for the ADC of anyone's legend.
I mean, that's a 4 for 1. Yes, you have the Otacons. Tarzan's down. Maybe anyone's legends can sneak into this dragon because it is soul for them. JDG with the respawns, they do have everyone up, so they have a man advantage. But again, Shanks, he's level 16. He's not making his way towards this dragon, so looks like it's going to be a give going up against JDG. Yeah. But still, that Otacon pretty much nullified by the initial fight from AL, just picking up all of the buffs and only losing Tarzan. That's not really a true win on the Otacon. The big win is denying the soul, which JDG will take.
We're getting Peyz to a point of promise. He's almost on 4 items, but the scary part is you look across to Shanks and Hope. They're already working on 4 items for Hope. Getting close to it for Shanks is the one carry that's so ridiculously strong with that scaling going to be enough for JDG.
A little bit surprised to see the Banshees on the Hope.
I kind of like it.
The idea is okay. I think I'd rather see the Zanyas, though, because when you go in, your pop has to be so big as anyone's legend, and you really only have one chance to go in as the Kaisa in this game. If not, then you're just going to be outranged continuously again. So you have to be careful about picking your spot. I think Zanyas helps you do that, less so the Banshees. But still, we are at the point where the core items are in for Kaisa, so you get to look for luxury items as... Oh, we're going to take another look at this Otacon.
Tarzan just didn't get to have fun.
Yeah, I mean, Missing does a nice job of clearing out Tarzan, but the top set of the fight is already just entire straights for anyone's legend. So it's not like the Doomsday scenario, and yes, Tarzan does go down, but I think you'll take all the Otacons being taken down. It was a nice fight from Flandre in particular, and love to see Hope still... He was at half health initially, still able to find a spot to step up, go in at the right time, in the right place on the fight. That's the key on the Kaisa, and Hope been doing a great job of that so far in this game today.
You know what? I think we need to add a 0.5 kills for Atacon kills to the screen. So then we could just make the scoreboard really chaotic and scary. I think it'd be really good.
That's an idea, for sure.
An idea of all time. I like it.
I don't know if I love that one, but it's an idea.
AL looking for an idea on top side, try to push JDG out of their jungle, giving themselves a little bit of time to set up for that next dragon. JDG, they're the team that's looking for the in-betweens. AL know what their job is. They know once they get to a 5-on-5, if they can find the right members in Peyz or even Scout, they can have a big advantage in terms of how their composition works. JDG just want to keep poking as much as possible. Okay.
Yep. You'll trade that as Leona. Your ult's on a lower cooldown, and you'll take the Unbreakable now, because Missing is going to be very squishy, especially no Aftershock on this Alistar. Tarzan.
Get Tarzan.
Good control board in that Banana Brush, but that's the only thing protecting JDG from Tarzan right now, and he's gotten around it. Tarzan.
No way. Okay, they go for the flash onto Shanks now as well. They got him on the back. Scout's getting low. They get everybody on him. No, Flandre missed his public execution, but it doesn't matter. AL still surging forward with Tarzan on the biggest flank I've seen on a Vi in recent memory. They do end up picking out Scout, but that's it.
Some nice creativity there by anyone's legend to get Tarzan around. Also, Shanks, he did flash the Alistar engage, which did bait Missing in. I know that he lived, but just opened up more space to guarantee that Tarzan gets in. You don't have the combo then waiting to cancel in or force that R out early. So the way that AL played that out, really nice on the trap. I feel like they actually didn't get enough given how good that looked. And the fact they lose the flash from Rise actually might hurt coming up here. But we're going to get a replay on this flank. beautiful here from Tarzan.
Masterful.
You can see they do spot that control board, so he understands that he would be spotted there. And again, sneaking around. Then here's what I was talking about. Shanks, yes, he does blow the flash. Missing was in a really tough spot, too.
The public execution is so sad.
I know. Same with the E-flash from Kael, too. That Zenith Blade ended up going wide. I think if they executed that cleaner on the scout, they could have gotten more, because that setup was much better than a 1-for-0 for AL, if you think about that one.
Yeah. Okay, Kael going a little ham here. Peyz burned the cleanse, though. That's a massive cooldown down, even with that solar flare being gone now. TPs were coming out in defensive nature for both sides as everybody is forming up around this barren side of the map.
It's a great play from Kael. We've seen those last 2 ults he's used for cooldowns and to try and get advantages. One took away the Unbreakable, which is nice. The cleanse even nicer. But he is forced to reset. Will have ult when he gets back to this fight. But Baron being tickled by JDG. AL do have full information.
I feel like this is a tough position to be in for the JDG comp. I mean, again, we said they are all about poke, and you're begging for AL to find an entrance into your setup. There's now a little bit of that poke coming to fruition for JDG. I will say they've been throwing their weight around the map pretty well.
The concern is just if the Rise is able to catch you out now at level 18. Rise can do a lot of damage.
You just got Void Staff too.
Yeah, the shotgun fight from Anyone's Legend, when we go in with Leona R and Bessa R with the Rise, it just has to be big. I think it's still big enough to take down JDG, but as long as that's the case in Anyone's Legend, it will be the ones that are favored in this game. Does look very close on the scoreboard. Just think that with the Kai'Sa, the Rise at this point, it's going to be really tough for JDG to deal with, and it does feel like Anyone's Legend has control of this game, as Tarzan is going for another super flank, but this time around there is at least a melee trap to spot him.
They have the ward there as well. They knew he was there already. See if they want to get over the other side of this fight. Tarzan's just lying in wait. It looks like this might be a big tussle. This is soul for Anyone's Legend. If they can grab it, it's a mountain soul too. It helps them so much. Tarzan spotted out on the flank. They might just go forward now. As JDG, they're a bit surrounded now. They end up sending few members to go stop Tarzan. Peyz does a massive amount of damage to Tarzan. Solar Flare going in. It's Shun in the pit, and he's got it. He denies the soul, and now public execution. This is the dive. This is the one moment for Anyone's Legend. Is it going to be enough? Allah's in the back line, and Allah's still tanking. Though Hope is untouched, and Hope is still cooking too. They're on the back line now as JDG are fully split. Hope guns Peyz down. How's that for your new ADC, JDG? As Hope makes his name known. Allah is falling in the side lane to Flandre, and he will be taken down by the Iron Wolf. JDG falling to pieces, and the only thing that's left is Anyone's Legend's Hope.
Dragon was sniped by Shun, but Hope sniped the rest of JDG as the fight got split in the middle. Anyone's Legends, they isolate them and take them down. But it's all off the back of Hope just being way too big to deal with these starts to the fights for Anyone's Legends. It feels like the first round of cooldowns that have been used, the fight is doomed from the start for JDG, whether it's them being too split. I mean, yeah, that time around Peyz, he got Tarzan out with the ring around the rosy, but you took Corki out of the entire fight. That's not worth it, as Hope was just raining down hell on JDG. Ends up taking the Baron in the back half. Yeah, let's take another look at this. Look at Peyz. Yeah, he's chasing Tarzan. That's the jungler. You get Smite out of the pit. You secured it, but now he's in a terrible position at the start of the fight. He does not feel safe enough to step up in auto, and it takes him a long time to even just get in range to step up in auto, and after that, he's got Shanks. Just took half his health because he tried to round that corner. Yeah, so like the fight for Peyz, just chasing out Tarzan, far from worth it there. Hope was allowed to function for the entire fight yet again for free. Even ended up sniping Peyz out the back half with how big he is at Acathian Rain. There's an Acathian Hellfire at the back of the AD of JDG. And Anyone's Legends, again, looking too big to beat at this point.
Dude, I gotta ask, what kind of meal plan does the LPL have their ADCs on? We had Elk go unkilled across 3 games in an LPL playoff game last night, and now 8-0-6 for Hope on their first game of the series. I mean, this guy's got a little bit of something to prove here tonight, apparently, and it's starting off well with his Kai'Sa. Is it beans? Now. Is it protein? Like, I gotta know, man. I don't understand. Our ADCs have been cracked.
I mean, whatever it is, man. LPL's always had some really really good AD carries. But great to see a newer name in Hope. It was taking the mantle of that. I know that Hope's had a decent amount of time in the LPL, has hit some highs, but has not hit highs as high of making LPL finals before and, you know, hoisting those trophies. Something where Hope is, you know, with his run on JDG, there was some hope to at least be able to do that. We're never able to really consistently hit those mantles high enough, Mazel.
Trying to make it to the end of the road here, but it's game one looking like it's coming to the end of the road with JDG at a massive deficit now. A composition from AL that they can just choose a target to take out of the game, and they're split pushing very well now too with this Baron buff. Okay, wait, that's what
Goodbye.
Hey, we were just talking about it. Scout no longer gets to exist, and AL are looking to put the finishing touches on this 40-minute game number one. It was a slow and steady burn, but AL made it hurt. They twisted the knife back and forth into JDG, and now it's just putting the bow on top of it all here as they take another inhib in bot lane.
Just felt like once the fight started, JDG, the comp, did not have enough damage to take down anyone's legend, not enough poke to force Hope out of there or get any significant advantage before those fights broke out that were not in their favor. And now missing last effort.
Missing tries to go for it. He doesn't find much there, and they are just getting AoE'd to hell. The gold diff, the wallet diff, just smacked JDG in the face, and so did game number one. What a way to go, and AL are off to the races. That composition was aces from the beginning.
Yeah, I think you got to give Hope MVP for that game, but I just can't believe how many fights we saw where Hope went in and went untouched. Like, at some point, that's not just Hope playing great League. That really is JDG. They have to be a little bit more patient and save some tools for the Kaisa when Hope actually goes in, because when you don't deal with the Kaisa and the Kaisa shreds you with the shotgun like that, again, there were some tools where if you're AL in that game, you have to make use of the Solar Flare, the Cease and Assist, and the Kaisa ult. We saw every fight when those tools came out, it ended up being very favorable for AL. If you're JDG, if you're able to actually absorb and reset fights after those tools are down, you get back to a game state where you can consistently poke, but A, they weren't able to do that, and then B, the couple fights where they had Hope low, Hope still found a point to actually go in and attack JDG and create a favorable scenario. So I just don't think that JDG dealt well with the Kaisa at all. And it felt like they didn't play their comp low enough. Again, if they were able to poke the backline, it's big. But that front line of anyone's Legends was too big and too good at eating that poke so that it never really made its way back to Hope, who was allowed to do as much damage as he could in those fights later on.
That's, again, going back to those initial conversations before the game even started. The bar of execution, they put it a little bit higher for themselves. It's harder to reach. But also, just a stalwart draft that AL knew they were getting. Like those insta-locks of those first three picks, they knew what kind of style they wanted to go for. They were very confident in what strategy they wanted to execute, and it made it easy for them to do it in game. And I think obviously when you have Hope performing like that, it makes it a hell of a lot easier. But AL have done their research. They have a lot of really good prep all the time coming in a lot of series, but here especially.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see where the series goes. Of course, those three Thanos level top laners that we've had for the majority of the tournament, and Ambassa, Jace, and Cassante now all off the board, could really warp the champ pools moving forward. I will say that Ale's been playing a lot of the Renekton, the Kennen champions that have been popular in the past, but are less popular just given the popularity of lane swaps and some of those champions' weaknesses there. A lot of the champs that we're seeing just be really strong in the top lane and also deal all right with the lane swaps now off the table, so could have an impact long term with the Fearless being our format, of course.
Through that, and that's what I'm really wanting to see. I want to see if we get down to some crazy picks or at least some big influential picks in the top lane as well, because I think both top laners are pretty influential in this game itself, but I'd say ADC is definitely a little bit more so. Almost 53,000 damage done by Hope. That's a hell of a performance to put on against your old organization. Yeah,
shout out to Shanks too. Did a good chunk of damage again this Rise. Too tanky to be moved out of these fights. Ended up being really valuable. Just buying space for Hope and bringing some lockdown for Vi and Ambassa that do like that a lot.
I mean, Hope ending with 90% KP is kind of insane. And it was a little bit of back and forth. I mean, again, we said it was a bit of a slow burn. There was not a lot happening in terms of the big contest, the big on 5v5s. We were seeing good execution around the map, kind of reservation for a game number 1 as well.
This was the fight.
Yeah, this was the big difference maker.
Like, look at how low Hope is, and then he goes in, and he's untouched in the entire fight. Like, both Peyz and Ala got out on the wrong side of the fight. Hope took the opposite side of the fight and was able to DPS for the entirety of it. Just a great fight from Hope, and poorly played by JDG to just never attack the marksman that was missing half his health bar at the start of the fight. So, yeah, just I think that's where things got really out of control for JDG, and then the only time that they really got back in the game was the misplay by anyone's Legends when they sacked 2 mid, and that led to the Baron and the Otacon being taken and threatened.
And that was a big change, and those are kinds of things that you're a little worrisome of, because you give a mistake like that to JDG, they'll pick it up and run with it, but this time AL able to stop them in their tracks, and this is the kind of win that actually gives me more confidence for AL to have that 3-0 performance tonight, even though nobody voted for it.
Because hold on. I voted for that.
You said JDG, right?
No, they all 3-0.
Oh, it was AL. Okay. Well, you were on the left side of the graphic for the JDG thing. Anyway,
I'm going to be on the right side of history.
Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, yeah, you might be right. Because this kind of win was gritty, right? Like, you had a situation where you had to play very slowly. You had a good strategy, but you needed to execute on it. And there was a slip up, but you were still able to pick it back up and finish the game.
I think it just looked grittier because anyone's Legends, they had to survive the strong, efficient solo lanes from JDG early on, and they had to scale a little bit in order to get the wins. So they did have to sack a little bit, and they did make the mistake in the mid game, which made it look a little bit grittier. But in the end, like, a lot of these team fights, they felt pretty one-sided, and it was pretty much just because Hope wasn't able to be auto-attacked. Like, and this is where I think that Missing had to put more of a priority of finding this Kaisa, or like, someone had to at least hold abilities for the Kaisa, whether that's Cassante, making sure that, EWR goes on the Kaisa, whether that's Alistar harassing Kaisa when Kaisa gets in, whether that's Scout getting on Kaisa. Someone had to have that job, and it felt like no one was taking responsibility of that in JDG. So, of course, Fearless Draft, you have to have a new strategy for the next game. We'll see if that changes, but that looked very, I don't want to say concerning, but definitely a major point that just wasn't existing for JDG in that game is something that would have been required for them to win that game. Finding a way to deal with Kaisa when she jumps into the fights. No answer was found to that.
It's just inherently hard with the composition you have. It feels like when you want to keep them such at range and they're just running straight into you. But there should be options. You should be able to fight a little bit back, especially when Hope is playing that aggressively on the Kaisa. No doubt he's going to get the MVP nod here. Like, if he doesn't get it, it's an absolute steal. Think there's some extenuating circumstances in terms of the setup the team provided and things like that, but it's damn good to see Hope performing like this in 2025 when he's had those trials and tribulations over his time on WE, even on his time here in AL. And this has been the duo, Shanks and Hope, that they've stuck with for years now.
And I mean, keeps on finding ways to at least pay off more and more. Props to Hope, who I feel like has really continued to quietly step up his gameplay.
41% damage done.
Yeah, over 1k DPM for the game too if he's hitting that much damage. I mean, it was a big game for him. I think that JDG just really allowed and enabled him to get away with something like that. And man, you talk about the good 80 carries that we have in LPL. I don't care who you are in this league, man. If you're a Kaisa jumping in, you're not being dealt with, you're going to do some damage, and Hope did just that in that game.
He did indeed, and that's it for our game number 1. But before we go to a little